this down. Now it's defenseman on defenseman here, and Chatfield will come up with a better of the play. Centering it up front to the back, and they score! Jordan Martinook! Now Staal with a stop chance on the steal and scores! Oh, the captain takes advantage of a misplay from Alex Lyon, and it's... Here comes a penalty shot. Go to the backhand. Oh, going wide. Drifting in on Lyon, holding forehand, and Lyon makes the save. Blake keeps it moving. Hall has that pass deflected away. Anticipation there by Patrick Kane. Moving it to DeBrincat, and DeBrincat has it knocked away by Jaccob Slavin. If you need him, that's Jaccob Slavin, everyone.
Yep, that's Jaccob Slavin. That's what we saw in the Four Nations face-off, and that's what we saw tonight. Once again, Slavin, pretty much the best player in the game. Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner podcast, and I am Adam Gold. Thank you very much for, just giving us some time in your evening on a Tuesday pre-tornado? Really? Come on. All right, we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hanlon Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. Check them out, aluminumcompany.com. You see it right there on your screen. All right, let's get to we're going to try to talk about the game tonight and not get into the weeds on what may happen Friday, because frankly, more than likely nothing's going to happen Friday. Nothing's going to happen. I don't think so. Whether something should or not, probably isn't even worth talking about. But I don't think anything's going to happen on Friday. We're just going to deal with this team as is moving forward and see how good they can get over the last 20 games of the regular season. And who knows? The East is wide open. Absolutely wide open. So let's have some fun. Hopefully watch the Hurricanes get back to being closer to the team. Well, I shouldn't say that. Because there is a big picture conversation about what this team is, what it looked like, which is kind of a mirage, what they are. Like, their offense is somewhere in between what we saw for the first 20-some-odd games and what we've seen for the last 25 games. Their offense is in between this. And I think what we're seeing now, and look, they won 2 games in a row, 2-1, and they lost the game essentially 2-1 to Edmonton, and they put a bunch of goals on the board against Buffalo. But if we remember that game, man, Buffalo was a holy mess for the first 10 minutes. Carolina led 3-0, and then the Canes got one more goal the rest of the way. And the Sabres are not to be confused with a great defensive team. So Hurricanes offense is definitely struggling. But let's talk about the game tonight, which was another in a very, I think, good stretch of defensive hockey. They allowed basically nothing. They allowed basically nothing to Buffalo, other than the gifts. There were a couple of gifts in that game. They allowed their defensive work against Edmonton was spectacular. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they basically created one scoring chance, maybe two, one each. The Draisaitl pass to Corey Perry for the goal, and McDavid, who got by Slavin, sort of in transition, and then Andersen made one of the best saves of his return in denying McDavid on the far side. So they play a great defensive game there. They completely gave Calgary nothing on Sunday, and then tonight, Detroit had a couple of moments, but really nothing great. Andersen was good, and we'll talk about him. But Carolina's been really, really strong defensively, waiting for the offense to come. And the truth of the matter is there were more goals in the game today than the 2 that they got. And one of them was a gift. The Staal goal was a gift. The other goal created good forecheck. Chatfield digging the puck out, getting into Martinook, who goes, forehand, backhand past Alex Lyon for the goal. That was the only goal that they scored during the game. The other one, again, a gift when the bouncing puck goes over Lyon's stick and Staal picks it up and sweeps it in the other side. But games like this are why you go, yep, that's why we paid Jaccob Slavin. So it was really cool during the Four Nations face-off to watch the national media realize what we've known here for such a long time. It was cool. It was cool that everybody got a chance to experience that. But what happened tonight is, like, I don't even know what the 3 stars in the building were in Detroit. I really don't. You know, I'm sure I could find it. But was Jaccob Slavin the first star of the game? Wasn't on the score sheet. Probably not. Jordan Martinook had a goal and an assist. He might have been the first star of the game. But the truth of the matter is that Slavin was the best player in the game. Arguably the reason why the Hurricanes won the game. He erases so many things. There was a time during the game where Slavin lost his stick and defended a play in transition. I mean, he's the best in the league using his stick defensively. He didn't even have a stick. Didn't matter. He has Jaccob Slavin. He has his brain. He has his brain. He's like Harry Potter. It's amazing. It's funny. Over the last couple of years, and I'm a big fan of Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers. Over the last couple of years, people have, especially Florida, getting to a Stanley Cup Finals and then winning it. Forsling, if you look at any list before the season, and this is not about shade for Gustav Forsling, who, yes, was with the Hurricanes in this system for a year. But if you looked at lists before the season, the best players in the NHL, Forsling was ranked ahead of Slavin, which is, like, again, this is no disrespect to Gustav Forsling, who is in many respects a lot like Slavin. We're just not talking about the same animal. And again, I think Forsling's dynamite. But in Slavin, you're talking about literally the best defensive defenseman in the game. And he does it without that air of physicality that is coming. Some guys have that. Some guys are really good defensively, but play with some bite. Every once in a while, you see it from Jaccob. But for the most part, he's just finessing you into, well, I have the puck now. That's what he does. There's nobody better in the league with a stick. I don't know how many players are even on his level, reading the play, getting in position, skating, just properly using his. It's not like he's even necessarily a fast skater. He is. He's just an incredibly smart and efficient skater, which is what, if you remember the play against Edmonton where McDavid turned him around, it's what made that play so surprising in that, wait a second, Slavin looked like he was completely tied in knots. And that never happens. The truth is that he's always done a great job against McDavid and or Draisaitl in his career. Is a reason why McDavid, I believe, has just 5 career goals against the Hurricanes. I mean, Jaccob Slavin's on the ice pretty much all the time that McDavid was. And it was funny because I talked to him before that game. I talked to Jaccob before that game. And we talked about Four Nations. And I had mentioned that it was the first time I ever saw a hint of ego in a good way with Jaccob. Because I just commented, like, you're on the ice. We see you against the other team's best players all the time. But, man, to watch you go against McKinnon and McDavid, although I said more McKinnon than McDavid, and I wasn't wrong there. He did play more against McKinnon than McDavid because you couldn't play against both of them. I guess you could, but he goes, no, I got both. He wanted to make sure that we had it on record that he did have to deal with both of them, and he did. And neither of those guys scored while Slavin was on the ice in the 2 games. Now, McKinnon was great against everybody other than the United States, and he won the MVP of the tournament, which, frankly, I mean, Jordan Binnington should have gotten at least something out of it. Anyway, the point is that we watch Slavin on that stage and we see Slavin on a game-in, game-out basis do just that. And that's what made the whole thing really cool, especially because, when you win a couple of games because Jaccob Slavin's on your team, we all get to appreciate that. And it was cool to watch the national media kind of see what we had seen. So another great game from Slavin. Let's move on to Frederik Andersen. So since Andersen came back, and I remember the day where it was announced that Freddie was going to be back. Now, he backed up Kochetkov that first game. He didn't play. And my take at the time, and I just stand by it. I don't know that I'm going to be right. And right now I look wrong, which is fine. But my take at the time was this, that the Hurricanes had gone so long with really no safety net in goal. It was Kochetkov, and when he was banged up, it was Martin or Tokarski, and that is just no way to exist as an NHL contending team, a Stanley Cup contending team at whatever level you are in that contender group. It is no way to do that with either Spencer Martin or Dustin Tokarski as your starter. Because for a time, Kochetkov was out and it was Martin with Yanni Peretz. And I'm like, what are we doing here? They got through it. Kochetkov came back, but he wasn't great. And Carolina's goaltending had been really kind of mediocre. And you can't do it mediocre. If you go back to past years for the Hurricanes, whether it's Peter Mrazek, who, by the way, is now being mentioned in trade rumors, maybe going to Edmonton. You got Mrazek, or you have Alex Nedeljkovic. The Hurricanes just hadn't had, they had good goaltending. Nedeljkovic, the crazy pandemic central year, Nedeljkovic had a great year. We got to the playoffs, and he kind of turned back into a pumpkin, but he had a great year. Mrazek, for the 2 years he was with the Hurricanes, or 3 years actually with the Hurricanes, and he lost his job to Nedeljkovic in that Central Division season. But he was amazing down the stretch in year one. He was certainly good, but not awesome in year two, in bubble hockey and all that. But it was, Carolina got good goaltending during the regular season. They haven't really been getting good goaltending. They've been getting, at best, okay goaltending, and that ain't going to cut it. And coming out of Four Nations, actually even the few starts going into Four Nations, you were just, so let me get back to my initial point before I got sidetracked by myself, is that I was looking for the return of Andersen to actually help two areas. Number one, goalie, because Andersen's first 4 games this year were dynamite, and I thought, well, maybe Freddie's going to come back, and maybe it'll take him a couple of starts to kind of get in the flow again, but he'd become Freddie Andersen again. Well, he hasn't. Andersen's starts since coming back, he won his first 3. He was good, I think, in the first couple. Not great, but good. But he hasn't really been that good since. And there's usually been 1 or 2 goals that gotta have that one back. And Kochetkov's been the same way. And then Sunday against Calgary, Kochetkov has that first 10 minutes of the second period. And he's great. I mean, legit great. And whether or not I believe he should have had the Kadri power play goal, but, it's a power play goal. Not going to completely crush him for it. But that's the only thing he allowed. But the saves he made in the early part of that second period were just awesome. And actually, they showed the highlights tonight on TV, and it was just, I mean, he was so good in the early part of the second period. Now, he only faced, I think, 16 total shots. So, I mean, it ain't, he didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Carolina outshot Calgary 33-16 in the game. But that first part of the second period was so good that, all right, there you go. That's your performance right there. So tonight, it's Andersen's turn. And he faced a little bit more action. You know, I don't know. I'll get the number in a minute. I really didn't write down how many shots on goal Detroit had. Carolina played a dynamite defensive game, but there were still chances, right? The save he makes on the power play on Dylan Larkin and then Mo Sider back-to-back. Those are great chances. Alex DeBrincat stopped on a great opportunity to score. He got, I think, Vladimir Tarasenko as well. So Freddie made some really good saves tonight. And his fault, the Soderblom goal, not his fault. He was small on that play. But again, I mean, that's just, he makes a good play, turns Orlov and Knotts. Martinook really gives the puck away or mismanages the puck into a turnover. And it goes the other way. Orlov just got completely worked. And at that point, it was still a game in jeopardy. Andersen played very well. And an encouraging sign for the Hurricanes that you could get that performance from him against the team that I think should have been desperate tonight. But Carolina was desperater tonight. I thought Carolina played the game like they needed it more than Detroit. This was a game where Carolina really imposed their will, and then we'll get to the bigger problem, I guess, in a minute. But when they had to have good goaltending, they got it. They got the timely save from Frederik Andersen. By the way, this road win tonight was the first road win since the 4-0 win in New York at Madison Square Garden over the Rangers on January 28th. That was 3 days after the Rantanen trade. The Rantanen trade was the Friday night. They played Saturday against the Islanders on Long Island, and then I guess it was Tuesday in New York against the Rangers. That Ranger game, the 28th, how many, 5 weeks ago? Last time they won a road game? Since then, they lost in Winnipeg, they lost in Minnesota, Toronto, and Montreal. Lost 4 straight games on the road. I believe that the Hurricanes can be a good road team. I believe the way they play should travel. But they haven't been a good road team this year. And primarily, I think it's because they just haven't scored a lot of late. And now we'll get to the bigger problem for this game. They scored 2 goals. They came about 2.5 minutes apart in the first period and the second period. Martinook late in the first, Staal early in the second. That was it. There were more goals than 2 in this game tonight. Whether it's Jarvis, who had plenty of opportunities, or Aho, or Rantanen, who I want to see him shoot the puck more. I know he's more of a playmaker. He's kind of he does a lot of distributing. Shoot the puck. Come on, Mikko. Be that guy. Shoot the puck. We need to see that. And here's why I say that. And I'm going to bring up what Trip Tracy used to love to say about our friend Teuvo Teravainen. When he establishes the shot first, everything else opens up. Rantanen's got a good shot. Flash it. There were opportunities to shoot the puck, and he passed tonight. I want to see Mikko Rantanen shoot the puck. The Hurricanes acquired him to score big goals. He can't help it if his teammates don't finish. And there were a couple of those tonight. But, for instance, I guess it was the pass to Jarvis. We've criticized Sebastian Aho for the exact same thing. Mikko Rantanen, and now Jarvis shot it wide. You can't shoot that puck wide. That's got to be on frame. But Mikko Rantanen took himself out of the equation because it was obvious he was always going to pass that puck. He opened up his body so much that he had nowhere to go other than pass the puck to Jarvis. So, shoot the puck, my man. Shoot it, Moose. Taylor Hall had many scoring chances tonight, including a penalty shot. Jackson Blake, we're getting used to this. Jackson Blake is all over the game except not scoring. I know he had 2 points last night. The way Jackson Blake has impacted the game over the last month and a half, and I will go back to the early days of the Rantanen acquisition when Blake was on the right side of that line. And I'm telling you, Rantanen and Blake probably should have had 10 points together for like 4 games. There were that many opportunities. You got to score. Got to start putting the puck in the net. But what happened tonight was, and it happened against Calgary too, you get all these chances and you don't really threaten. And all of a sudden, why is this game up in doubt? I mean, the Hurricanes dominated every possible way tonight, except they only had 2 goals to show for it. I mean, that game should have been 3 or 4-0 at that point, but it wasn't. And then Soderblom scores, and all of a sudden, now you got to sweat it out. So I used the golf analogy during the aftermath. It's like, being careless, putting or chipping and leaving yourself a bunch of 4-footers for par. Oh, yeah. I mean, we should make them. Maybe not 4-footers. But they're missable. And this game tonight and the game Sunday against Calgary and the game against Buffalo when you were up 3-0, almost like that. And really the Edmonton game too. You're just getting so little out of your chances that you're just inviting trouble. You're inviting losses where there should be wins. So I have heard a ton about the what's plaguing Carolina. And it's obvious that right now the offense is no good. 0 for 2 in the power play, although I thought the power plays both looked pretty good tonight. It wasn't frustrating, can't get the puck in the zone, set up or establish anything. I thought they did that tonight in the 2 power plays they had. They just didn't score on them. And I'm not saying they had awesome chances, but they moved the puck well. Still could be better, still could be quicker, could be more player movement, but they moved the puck well, and that's all you can ask for. They gave themselves an opportunity, and they didn't suck the life out of the building. Again, we're on baby steps here. But you can't keep doing that and not getting anything out of it. Otherwise, you are going to lose a game. Like if Detroit had tied that up and won in overtime, you'd be killing yourself because you dominated basically for 60 minutes and had nothing to show for it. I mean, you had something. You had a 2-0 lead. But that should have been more. And, you went to overtime against Calgary, and, yeah, you have Sebastian Aho, I guess, so you won it. But what if they scored? Again, inviting these should be wins. Carolina's got enough, has had enough possession of the puck, enough, with the puck in dangerous areas. They've had more than enough opportunity to get more than the 2 goals they've gotten. In this game, the 1 goal they got Sunday, the 1 they got against Edmonton, there just has to be more goals in it. Just has to be. Now, I think eventually what we'll see is difference between what we saw in the first 20-some-odd games and the last 20-some-odd games, and you'll get a team scoring, between 3 and 4 more often than not. Right now, the Hurricanes are, honestly, pretty fortunate that their record over this 4-game stretch where they scored a total of 5 goals in these 4 games. So that's 2.5 goals a game. I think you're pretty fortunate to be 3-0-1 or 3-1-0 in this 4 games. That's what they are, right? Buffalo win, Edmonton loss, Calgary win, Detroit win. You scored 10 goals. It just has to be more. More than half of the time in the last 33 games. More than half of the time they have scored less than 3 goals. It's mind-blowing. So, got to figure out a way to, get the puck in the net. The power play has been trashed. They're now 5 for their last 67. It's about 7.3% since the calendar turned. Good thing is the penalty kill didn't concede a goal today, so you remain, you won that battle, I guess. You didn't lose the battle, and I've always said that about special teams. The goal should be to not lose special teams. You don't have to win it. You just can't lose it. And Carolina didn't lose it tonight. Both sides had 2 power plays. Neither side scored a power play goal. And I think both power plays had some chances, but they weren't dominant. But, for the Hurricanes, that's a step up. For Detroit, who had the best power play really over the last, I think, 25 games, nearly 40%. The fact that the Hurricanes held them to really 0 for 2, that's almost a win in and of itself, especially since Carolina's penalty kill had struggled. I mean, relative. They had given up 9 goals in the last 8 games. I mean, those are struggles, based on what the Hurricanes normally do. But so good for them to not give up a power play goal to Detroit. Good for them that they were able to get this one to the house in a 2-1 final, because it could have gone the other way at some point. And I say this all the time, and it doesn't make a difference what the sport is. When you get the better of it, when you are imposing your will in the game, you got to get something out of it other than time off the clock. And I thought today it was a lot of time off the clock and not a lot of production, because the truth is that this should have been 4-0 at one point before the Red Wings got the goal. It should have been 4, maybe worse, but is what it is. At least you got the win. Now, actually, let me just do a quick check, because big doing in Dallas for the Hurricanes. And I think is that game final? Yes, the Stars hung on and beat the Devils 4-3. They needed that. Actually, the Devils had tied it up at 3-3. Brett Pesce scored with less than 5 minutes to go, his second goal of the season. And then Thomas Harley won it with 5 seconds left. How about that? Big result for Carolina. Now a 4-point lead on the Devils. By the way, Jacob Markstrom came back tonight for New Jersey. We still don't know what the status is of Jack Hughes. So you want to finish second. You want home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Take your chances after that. So 4-point cushion with a game in hand on New Jersey. Done with the season series with New Jersey, so they don't have a chance at one of those 4-point games. 20 games left to play. 8-point lead on Columbus. I think the Blue Jackets are legitimately good. We've seen them already. I think we got one more game with them. I know we have 2 more left with Detroit. The Rangers are coming. We have 1 more game left with the Rangers. I believe it's in Raleigh, if I'm not mistaken. So there are no guarantees of what you're going to get out of the regular season. You got 20 games left to do it. And they get Boston, who I think is pretty much going to kind of fold up shop here. I think they'll probably look to move another player or two at the deadline, retool in the offseason. You got Boston on Friday, and then the deadline comes, and I think the deadline goes, regardless of what's going to happen with Mikko Rantanen in the future. And I've talked about this enough. I'm not going to spend any real time about it now. I don't think there will be a trade of Rantanen. I would like to see some improvement on the margins for this team. I've talked about it. Love to see another NHL defenseman, although my understanding is they believe they're going to sign Alexander Nikishin as soon as his season comes to an end. Problem is, KHL regular season ends March 23rd. Then you've got playoffs. They're one of the better teams in the conference. So they're probably going to play at least 2 rounds, 3 maybe 4. I don't know. And if that's the case, then you're not going to have him at all. So I'd love to see them add a veteran defenseman. Look, if Buffalo is apparently going to move Henry Yokiharu, I think he's a good player. He's not a great player, but I think he's a good player. And I think you can make an argument that you can put him in the lineup instead of Dmitry Orlov and probably not hurt yourself. Orlov had the bad moment tonight, obviously, on the Soderblom goal. But I thought he showed he played a better game than he has played in the past. I thought Brent Burns was good tonight. Slavin was, of course, otherworldly, but I'd love to see the Hurricanes add a defenseman. Love to see them do that. I'd also love to see the Hurricanes add a center. I don't think that's happening. And I'm not sure they're going to add a defenseman. But we'll see. It all depends on what they believe, when they believe they can get Nikishin over here. And I've said this before. I don't think it would hurt anybody to have Scott Morrow play a little here. And I don't think it would hurt anybody to see Bradley Nadeau play. But we're getting closer to it. We'll have more deadline-ish things to talk about on Thursday, as we will then be just a matter of hours before the trade deadline. But look, tonight was a good win for the Hurricanes. Shouts to Washington State. Shouts to Greenville, North Carolina. Shouts to you in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm sure there are other cities that checked in, but when we got ready to start, I just browsed through it. Those are the cities that were there. Appreciate all of you hanging out on after a good win. They needed a win, and Detroit's a good team. And the penalty kill was good for Carolina. Power play didn't look like it sucked the life out of the room. You got 2 goals from your leaders, and good play, albeit without scoring, really up and down the lineup. I thought Kotkaniemi, Hall, and Blake were really good. Martinook, Svechnikov, and Staal were really good. I mean, all 3 lines were really good. We didn't see as much from Jost, Roslovic, and Robinson. The big, I guess, the loss there is that, Eric Robinson is impacting the game less because he's not playing in a more elevated role, but I think you can live with that right now. I think Robinson's a good player, and he'll have impact in the game. But I'd be all about letting us see if Bradley Nadeau can come up and just maybe provide a little bit of a spark. You can send Jost down, bring Nadeau up, play Roslovic in the middle of Nadeau and Robinson. Just another guy who can put the puck in the net. Maybe another option on the power play. I don't know. I'm a dope. All right, we got to go. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it there at the Aluminum Company on Hamlin Road in Durham. Sammy Hanner's going to do a great job. I appreciate your time. We'll see you after the game against the Boston Bruins. We'll be at PNC Arena. I'm sorry, Lenovo Center. What did I just do? We'll be at Lenovo for that one. And again, we'll be pretty close to the trade deadline. Who knows? Maybe the Hurricanes would have added, I don't know, Bobby Orr. Probably not. All right. until Thursday night, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.